20 years, CPS has closed over 200 schools and placed 300 on probation.
We're standing up and we're not taking no more. We're going to fight for our teachers and our kids. So get ready, because we're coming for you.
Woke up this morning with my mind, and it was stayed on education. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Those schools where they're not performing at a level that is acceptable, those are the parents, those are the communities, and those are the students and teachers that are going to be most adversely affected by Chicago Public Schools' next round of actions. They're going to do it in 2 phases, and I just want to get your opinion about it, because working on the Chicago Educational Facilities Task Force myself and working on the language, specifically legislatively, that we had passed or that we proposed, turnaround schools were a part of that legislative language because they've always been a part of Chicago Public School actions. But yet, this new regime is separating and possibly going to announce the turnaround list separate from the school closing, phase out, consolidation list. And they're all school actions. CPS notoriously has not consulted the community, included the community, and they also did not follow their own policies, which is why we had to get this legislation, because they did not follow their own policies.
Well, the first thing I think we all need to do is become extraordinarily educated about what this all means. In terms of turnaround, I think it will be interesting to see what entities are involved in turnaround. If they are a USL, which we expect, considering that we have board members and people who are high in CPS authority who came from that organization. I think we need to start questioning conflict of interest, things of this nature. I think that's something that the task force really needs to look at and examine. I think that if the task force uses its authority as a bully pulpit, as it should, then we might have some answers. We might be able to see and peel off some of the layers of the onion. I am concerned because it still feels like this is a done deal, as it was before the election, and not the election, but before this law was passed, excuse me. The unfortunate, the really unfortunate thing that comes out of this is that last legislative season, CPS was pushing to have this law not be passed. And they lobbied very hard against it. And so having to do it, even though, again, they don't have the will to do it. The unfortunate thing is that they have made a decision what they're going to do. They have figured out a way to, again, ignore the community by coming up with an alternative that, quote unquote, involves the community. And again, we know what that means. I would hope that the community, each school community, prepare itself and be prepared to not only defend their schools, but to defend the schools around them. This has to be a much more concentrated effort. I think one of the good things about the school actions issue right now is that the Chicago Teachers Union will be extremely involved in them. Before we were elected, that was not the case. So we will organize parents, we will give them the ability to speak, we will help train them to testify. We have seen that happen in the past. What we also hope is to hold the board accountable. If you decide to close a school, then you need to go to that community and sit there and listen to the people, as opposed to reviewing the hearing officer's recommendations. But I do hope that the task force calls CPS on the carpet about not following the law. I don't know what your recourses are, but from what I understand, if you don't follow the law, there are some penalties involved. And I certainly hope that it doesn't mean that CPS will waste a lot of money on legal fees to fight what they shouldn't be fighting. To have a plan that is generated, again, by, I mean, this, to me, this law was so hopeful in that it gave CPS the opportunity to be transparent and to be inclusive. And it still chooses not to. It's just, we're going to do it our way or the highway. The contempt for the community, the contempt for parents, is still disheartening to me. And I would like to see that change, and I would hope that this new administration at CPS would make some movement in a different direction.
I am Sharon here at Perham. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Pablo Casals School. We're a school of approximately 500 students located in the Humboldt Park area. We feel that we're being targeted by the Chicago public school system. Looking at our data, we are in the middle of the schools in our area, and we cannot figure out why we are being turned around.
My name is Maritza Gallegos. I am a 3rd grade teacher at Pablo Casals Elementary School. Our school has consistently improved from year to year. We have moved from being at 33% in 2002 to being at 61.5% last spring. So we would like to know why we're being targeted when from year to year we have continued making progress.
My name is Joyce Eisenga. I'm 6th grade language arts teacher at Pablo Casals School. This is actually my first year at the school, so I'm very upset by this news that we're being turned around, especially after I've heard of all the progress we've made and are continuing to make this year. We have a brand new principal. She has good visions for our school. We have great teachers. We collaborate together. We work hard, and we care about our kids.
My name is Maria Guerrero. I have been at Pablo Casals since it opened in 1989. In his letter to the staff of Casals, Mr. Brizard mentioned that they had conducted multiple walkthroughs of the school and that they had observed the climate and culture of the school. This is the letter that he addressed to his dear friends at Casals. This is in fact a lie. Mr. Brizard has never visited our school, nor has any team or representative of his ever visited Casals. So procedures have not been followed at Casals. And of course, we are a high-scoring school. We match all the schools in the Humboldt Park network. Anyone can check that on the 2011 report cards. We are scoring higher than 6 of the 11 AUSL schools that he proposes to give us to. So there is no reason for Pablo Casals to be on this list, and Mr. Brizard knows it, and he's just spreading lies about our school.
Hi, my name is Willie Williams. I'm a concerned parent for Pablo Casals. We need for the mayor and the CEO to come out to the school. We need to see what plans that we have for our school. Our school don't need to be turned around. We only had a principal in there for 28 days, and she has a good plan. So if you give us a chance to come over and see our school, I'm sure you will like it and you will change your mind and turn around our school.
Save our schools! 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 Save our schools!
All of those wonderful things that we were doing did not matter to CPS. Our student improvement didn't matter to CPS. Our organic longer day, that didn't matter to CPS. Our students and community didn't matter to CPS. The only thing they cared about, and the only thing they care about now, is closing down authentic neighborhood schools to make way for charter operators and their crony education contractors like AUSL. They closed our successful, well-rounded public school, and the very next year, they opened a charter school in our building. The recent charter report cards show clearly and distinctly that all charter networks, except for one, are not performing up to standard. They are below the district average. This has been a failed reform initiative for the past 15 years, and yet the district continues to insist upon continuing these devastating policies that have led to spikes in violence in receiving schools and pushed children out of their neighborhood schools. Homelessness and class size, did you notice? Of the schools that are slated for turnaround and closure this year, most have oversized classrooms and high numbers of homeless students. CPS has not provided the support that it is legally and morally obligated to provide. If they really cared about our schools and our children, they would stop putting the resources into failed experiments and start investing in what we have. CPS has created this mess through years of underfunding, understaffing, under-resourcing, and undervaluing our schools and our children. They've vilified our teachers and told our students that they are failures year after year after year after year.
That's right.
They spread their lies in the media with talking points about failure, but those of us who have worked in this system, gone to school in this system, or have students in this system, we realize what the failure is. The CPS has failed to live up to its responsibility to the students of Chicago by listening to business people and corporate interests rather than the educators that they employ. They've ignored the voices of parents and community members who tell them every year that they need more resources instead of new charter schools and new curricula and a new magic bullet program that will somehow make up for the years of neglect. Now is the time. Everyone in this room knows the truth. We know who the real failures and successes are. We know how to make real improvements in our schools. We've been doing it for years in spite of CBS's sabotage. It's incumbent upon us to work together to give our schools what they need. This will be a lot of work. This is going to get ugly, but we can do this. We have the knowledge, the experience, and the will to help our students. And I just want to leave with one quote. It's an Alice Walker quote, and I think it's completely apropos right now. The most common way that people give up their power is by thinking that they don't have any. You have the power.
My name is Hannah Richardson, and I teach Montessori primary, which is pre-K and kindergarten at Stagg Elementary School. Our school's targeted for a turnaround, and it really kind of breaks my heart because I feel like I put every part of myself into these children. I really want to see them grow and succeed and become the amazing people that I know that they're capable of becoming. And it really kind of makes me sad that we have to go through this fight in order to keep a good education for our students. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes, as long as it takes, spend as many hours as it takes, because that's where my heart is with these kids.
There's other folks here with the school?
Good morning. My name is Aurea Smiley. My son is the third one of my children who went to Stagg Elementary. This is like a family. They really help the kids, they help the community, and I'm going to fight all the way with them.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Ann Whitfield. I'm here from Stagg Elementary School, and the teachers behind us. We're tired of all these politicians taking all our stuff away from our schools and our neighborhoods and our community. We're standing up, and we're not taking no more. We're going to fight for our teachers and our kids. So get ready, because we're coming for you.
Chicago was a laboratory for a national education agenda. Mostly African American and Latino children were the experiments. Closing schools has led to increased violence and destabilized neighborhoods, and children are sent all over the city, and it has not improved their education. There is no research to demonstrate that closing schools and opening charter schools and turnarounds improves education for all students.
It's unjust that our teachers are put out of jobs based on educated guesses and ill-based statistics. That's unjust. It's insanity. If I go to the hospital, or I take my little boy to the hospital, and he has a pain in his toe, the doctor doesn't go through everything. Has he had a cough? Has he had a cold? Has he had a runny nose? And then says, you know what? My conclusion is I'm going to cut his leg off. But that's what they tell us.
That's right.
I'm going to go through these statistics. I'm going to look at the evidence, and I'm going to close it down. That's insanity. Insanity, as my apostle says, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and doing what? Expecting different results. We are dealing with an insane system. You're going to do the same thing right here, right here, right here, can listen to what the community is saying. You can run your business, or you can put the resources in my school where it belongs. You can say what you want to say in your statistics and put them on the screen, or we're going to stand up and we're going to say something about this. We're not going to tolerate this. We're not going to let this happen. These are our babies. These are our children.
If we dare to say anything in opposition to these plans that have been train wrecked since they've been unleashed in our neighborhoods, they'll say, well, KOCO is an organization with a dependence on the union, or KOCO is an organization with close ties to the union, as if as an independent African-American community-based organization, we don't have the sense to recognize how to pick our partnerships and to partner with people based on a common agenda. You're dealing with a system that does not believe that you, as African-American and Latino parents, have the sense to say what should be happening in your schools. Racism could be roughly defined as harming the people in any way because of their race, right? Racism is a power dynamic. It's not about how you feel about somebody or prejudice. Racism is about power. And when what we are prepared to do now is call that racism out, because just share a few things with you before we go forward. In this community, we've had over 14 school closings and over 20 school actions, even though there were 17 other neighborhoods with lower test scores. Not that it should happen in any other neighborhood. These school closings and these turnarounds were happening in communities that were being rapidly gentrified, where the housing market was changing and shifting. They wanted to change and shift the schools. Now, somebody would say that's a conspiracy. That's not, but we've proved it. We've also proven the impact of school closings on a community. At Dyett High School, at Fuller High School, at Doolittle, all three of those schools were destabilized by the action of being a receiving school for school closings. So the question I have for you all is, who gets fired for that? Who loses their job for imposing policies on our schools that set our children up? Because now, what happened to those babies that entered Fuller in 2003 in third grade and were expected, or in kindergarten, and were expected to have that same nurturing environment, but the school wasn't the same? It wasn't the same not because the teachers were worse. It wasn't the same not because the parents weren't involved. It was not the same because the school district, who we trust when we send our children to school every day, betrayed the trust of parents, of teachers, and of these babies. And what we're saying as the Kenwood-Oakland Community Organization, and what we'd like to share with you all today, is we've had it. That's it. There's an agenda for public education that says little black and brown kids don't matter. They have proven it. It is racist. It is R-A-C-I-S-T. That's how you spell it, right? It's racist. And so, in 1955, Brown versus the Board of Education was passed that said end school segregation with all deliberate speed. But in 2011, we still live in the most segregated school district in this country, and the most segregated city in this country. So what we're saying is, teachers and parents, we cannot drink the anti-teacher and the anti-parent and the bad parent Kool-Aid. We have to recognize that we are all in this together. These children belong to communities, they belong to parents, they do not belong to bureaucrats. This is what I mean by bureaucrats who do not mean our community any good. There was a chief area officer in this neighborhood named Dr. Judith Coates. She came in and smiled and said, I really care about your community, and I really want to work with you, and blah, 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 blah. And then she systematically went school by school with a hatchet and told those teachers and told those parents, your school is horrible, your school is despicable, and we're going to close it, right? She was the hatchet lady. And then when we began to challenge her, and there are people that can witness this, she had a meltdown. Like, how dare you Negroes speak to me that way? Well, we're going to speak to you that way from here on in. You're not coming in our neighborhood with that nonsense no more. Because the people that will make sure that these babies get a world-class education are the people that love them 24 hours a day, are those teachers that struggle with them every day. And we are united in this fight. So you tell Channel 7, Channel 5, Channel 2, if this sister and the Chicago Teachers Union is on the right square and respects parents and community, then we standing together. That's it. That's all. The last thing I want to say to y'all, and when I say we standing together, I mean black, brown, north side, south side, west side, Humboldt Park, Pilsen, Kenwood-Oakland, wherever. Who are these people that they put on the camera in front of you on TV and say, these are the people that tell you that they care about your children? Who are they really, all right? So that we leave here focused. And I want to say this too. From the Kenwood-Oakland Community Organization, some of you all may have seen us on the news the other day, because we've been meeting with CPS. So we're not just running the street because we some wild, untamed, racism again, because we some wild, untamed group that doesn't have the capacity to recognize how to move power. We understand how to move power, all right? So what we are doing is we did an action last week. We said we're not meeting with as Jeanette said, we're not meeting with no more peons, all right? We want the mayor to answer to why he's moving this bad policy. So, when you all go to hearings, when we go to the Chicago Public Schools board, the board meeting, we cannot go the same way we've gone in the past. Before we've gone, now they changed public policy, the public participation, because of many of us in this room. All right, so they're doing everything they can to limit the public participation. If we go to the school board meeting, because we're shutting it down, not because we're going there to speak. We're going there to shut it down. If you go to a hearing, you're going to that hearing to shut it down. We're not going there to kiss your ring, to hold a process that don't love us. And I want to say that, and so you may be getting a phone call from us with some suggestions, all right? Because what we believe is that this will not stop until we stop it. I don't care what your grants say. I don't care what your funding source say. I don't care what relationships we have. To me, as a man, I cannot look those babies in the face and not say that they protected. And not say that we're going to protect you from a system that will profit off your demise.
There are parents and community members and organizations that want to have an elected school board. There's been talk about even taking education away from mayoral control and returning it back to a board or an elected school board and a group that would be accountable to the people.
There are a variety of ways to approach this question. The short answer is that an elected school board is obviously more democratic than an appointed one. There's also the issue of politics, policies, and education are intertwined and on a very, very scary cliff, let's put it that way. We cannot ignore the lack of funding and the lack of resources. We cannot ignore the political agenda that go along with education. And we cannot ignore the fact that it's such a popular subject that is, again, easily reduced to sound bites and simplistic fixes. Education, learning, teaching are complex processes that, for some reason, because everyone went to school, everyone has an opinion about how to do it. So, understanding the need for the democratic process and understanding the need for bringing back a semblance of community voice and parent voice. The issue of an elected school board is extremely, extremely exciting to a lot of people who really feel that they've been shut out of the decision-making process.
CPS wasn't with any of you parents the nights when them babies was crying and you wiped their nose and you stood up all night. And they not gonna stand here, sit there, get some dummy on the stage who don't know what he's talking about to say, I don't know, we're gonna see about that. Let me look at my thing. No, we're gonna stand and we're gonna fight because faith without works is dead. And that's my call to every single one of you today. We're not gonna be a doer, a hearer of the word, but today we're gonna be a doer of the word.